Okay, so John Robb here, interviewing three clubmen about their new projects, some familiar faces and some slightly less familiar faces, but we're now going to find out who everybody is. So, do you want to introduce yourself, starting with Stu?
Okay. My name's Stu Rowe. I started working with Andy in about 2006, and I got a studio in Swindon.
Jen?
Hey, Jen Olive. I started working with Andy in 2008 for an album I did, Warm Robot, on Ape Records, and glorious, glorious beginnings.
Okay, and Andy?
Oh, it's me. Yes, Andy Partridge here. Ashamed to be part of any group that would have me as a member.
So I guess the crux of the relationship. I mean, Stu, you're from Swindon, aren't you? I think. If I
No, I moved here in '89.
Okay, yeah.
So I moved down from London and started just doing music here, set up a studio, and yeah, just became part of the Swindon. What there is of a Swindon music scene, just kind of just got involved with it.
Is there I mean, apart from one obvious exception, is there much for Swindon
Well,
music?
that is one obvious. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on. You know, but very few people get through from here. It's a very small town, but obviously, you know, we've got XTC. Yeah, I wasn't here when they were in their pomp. Really, I didn't see them growing up. So I got here around about 1990. So they stopped gigging by then, so I never saw them.
So how did your paths cross? I think you're saying that Andy had used your studio.
Well,
Um,
actually, he loaned me. He loaned me. We I was working on an improvisational project with Barry Andrews and Martin Barker, and we were in Swindon College studio. I can't remember what that studio is called. Stu, what was it called?
Swindon College Studio.
There you go. That'll do. And I wanted a wah wah for one number. You know, I don't often get to quack out. So and I brought one along, and it just wasn't functioning properly. And Stu came in the door and he said, "Oh, I've got a wah wah. You can borrow. I'll go and get it." And I thought, what a nice fella, you know. And he brought this wah wah in, and I quacked away, and it was like, okay, I'm going to be friends with this fella. He's, you know, it was an instantaneous click.
But was it a creative click, or was it just more of sort of a mutual fascination with recording and
Well,
WAP?
it's yeah, exactly. Fascination with old wah. No, it started as a kind of a sort of act of friendship, and then Stu said, "Do you mind if I remix some of this improvised stuff?" You know, and he was chopping it about and making odd loops up and sort of remixing it and so on. And that's how we got into kind of, oh yeah, he's quite handy. He's good with the knobs, you know. So it went from just a here, old chap, try my wah wah to something pretty damn creative.
So I mean, so it's like which one was the spider, which one was the fly? Who's drawing who into the web, or is it a people web?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there was like inevitably we would meet at some point. In like I say, it's only so many musicians in Swindon, and it was just I think it was just fortunate. I was sort of exploring more kind of avant-garde stuff, and that's exactly where Andy was going with his Monstrance project, and it was just great. Some people in Swindon who actually trying to do music outside the norm. So yeah, brilliant.
And the same with you, Jen. I mean, when did you when did you construct your web?
I had heard a friend of mine had told me that Andy had a little label going, and I was struggling in LA trying to meet like-minded people and things like that. And I just sent him a little card. I sent a little note with a little recording and said, hey, if you dig this, give me a call. And he did. He gave me a call. So we started working together, and it was just very natural, very just sort of completely free, weird. I could do whatever I wanted, and he understood it perfectly. And we just went from there. And I met Stu through Andy, and we just started, experimenting as well. And I think we just sort of came to realize we were all on that same chaotic page.
Yeah, you've got to say it, all on the same spectrum.
On the I do have to say that. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
absolutely.
Which is a
that is true.
great place to be for a creative person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
at what point did this go sort of tip over from being working on separate projects to deciding you're actually going to work on a project together?
Stu, you want to dig in with this one?
Oh,
yeah. So Jen, you were going to say something there?
Oh, go on. Yeah.
I was just going to say that they had been working together already, doing some odd things. And when I met Stu in the recording of Warm Robot, he sent me something. It really all just happened organically. He sent it to me, and I threw, I don't know, 100 vocals at it, and it just sort of grew. It was this natural just process that just grew over time. I don't think there was any specific moment. We were just kind of doing things, having fun.
Yeah. There was no master plan. It just sort of, like, barnacles attaching themselves to a vessel, and suddenly you've got all these beautiful barnacles. There's no vessel there. It's just improvised kind of nothingness, but suddenly you've got the shape of a great vessel with all these barnacles stuck on it. And it was, see, Stu and I kind of had a drinking musical club on Thursdays and Fridays. We'd get together down in his bunker and just improvise stuff. And then Stu would start sending this to Jen, saying, "Hey, what you got? What do you want to do anything with this?" And then she'd send stuff back. And 9 times out of 10, it'd be, "Oh, that's good. We can do something with it. This is great." So it really just accrued without trying to do anything.
Yeah, I've been kind of doing a similar thing in Swindon with anyone who'd come in the studio. So I have sort of like hard drives full of meanderings of local Swindon musicians that I was chopping up. But somehow when I met Andy and Jen, that it just seemed to work really well. The three of us, the elements they were coming up with was just like, wow, I can just move it around. And so it was kind of something I'd been trying to do, but just meeting these two just took it to another whole level. So eventually I think we should have said, well, we should call this a project. That's, but then it took a while.
One night at the drinking club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. We used to hold on the drinking. We used to hold on usually till Fridays, because Thursdays you think, well, if I'm coming down as well Friday, I don't want to be hungover trying to invent things. So it really just kind of made itself like some sort of religious cult. It made its own self.
Yeah, it kind of got passed around, didn't it? It would go over to Jen, she'd send something back, Andy would add something, I'd add something. It just kept going round and round till, there's enough for a song, bit by bit. So no one wrote the things before we started messing them. I think
they were not songs they weren't, I never said, "Hey, Stu, I've got an idea for a song." Or Jen wouldn't say, "Hey, here's an idea for a song." You just improvise vocals and improvise playing, and then suddenly you think, "Oh, you know what? This is kind of happening good." It's not like nobody sat down to write a song. It's a totally different process to what I'm used to doing, and probably what Jen's used to doing.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah, there was no sitting down and what rhymes with month. None of that going on.
I mean, for a long time, Andy, it seemed that you're doing the label and the projects, that you were doing, but it seemed, the creative side, the songwriting side seemed to be put to a side. And I've read all the books, and you do get creative blocks, etc. And was this a way of? I mean, I know this project's not set up solely around you, but did you find this as a way of getting over this sort of like creative blocks you sometimes get? It kind of lulled you into a space where you could be creative with like-minded people again.
I guess so. I mean, to some extent, if you're searching for a song and it's got to be within, so I've got to think within this boundary. The Three Clubmen project was a way of smashing that boundary farther. Monstrance was something that I had always wanted to do, not necessarily with those two musicians, but improvising in a studio, and then I think we did like 3 days of improvising, something like that, and we just took all the best bits, like good improvisation projects do. You take the best bits, but there's always plenty to throw out. That's how you find it. That's how you find the cream at the top. And it was a case of working with Stu, and then Jen sending out, "Oh, try this, fellas," and it's, "Oh, I never would have thought of that." So it's much more. I'm not a solo. It's not a solo job. It's other people are firing ideas in, or get rid of that bit, try this bit instead. Okay, chop that out. Da, da, da. None of that really went on with XTC. Everything was cut and dried before we got into a studio, because studios are so bloody expensive. You can't dick around, So
you prefer this way of working? I mean, I've read the songwriting books, with your past works, and it's quite. I mean, everybody wrote the song, whether it was you or Colin. It was quite controlled. Everybody had the parts worked out, often. And do you prefer this, this kind of mutual collaboration?
In a way, I do. It suits more where I want to go in terms of letting things be freer and open to more surprise. Like, for example, a little example of one of the numbers on the EP, Aviatrix. I went down to Stu's one afternoon, and I just had an idea for a little melody, a little riff, and I'll tell you what it was. It was. And we said, "Yeah, that's nice," and we picked a tempo, and he said, "Well, look, if we send this to Jen, we don't know what key she's going to prefer to sing it into." So we sent it in A, we sent it in B, C, D, G. It was like, I think it was in like 8 different keys or something. And I don't know whether it was Jen that picked one of those, or we were messing around with faders and dicking around. What happens if we fade that key over that key? Oh, it's kind of 2 keys simultaneously at that point, or it's momentarily 3 keys at that point. That's not anything I would have thought of doing if I was writing a song. But that one happened just totally organically through wanting to send something that would suit Jen's pitch or her timbre or whatever,
It's interesting. I mean, all three of you talk about the creative process, and it sounds quite ad hoc, but actually they've turned into really well sculptured pop songs. I mean, is that how they kind of fall into your laps? Even though you sort of coming up, a little guitar part like that, which is a wonderful guitar part, and it could end up just being a loose jam, which would be great, but they actually sound like really good 3-4 minute pop songs. I mean, is that the beginning point, or is that the end point you're aiming at?
Well, I think Jen and Stu have got probably more to do with this process than I do.
Yeah, okay. And I was going to say that I think that Stu has the maybe it's the good job or the bad job of pouring through everything and finding those bits and stringing them together so that they have a sort of catchy. I mean, he's got that ear that he just takes the parts out of chaos and turns them into something catchy, and then we get them back and throw something on top of it. It's hard to say, though, whether that's an end game, because some of these songs are not necessarily, to my mind, poppy or, pop song. I don't know that Race Car is really a pop song, but the structure of it just seems to be through the back and forth of it. The construction of the pieces, just tacking them together and saying that makes a nice line right there. Those 3 parts from, 15 minutes of chaos strung together makes a nice little line. Now let's try and drop a verse on that, see what happens. So just kind of grew in that way. I don't know if there was an end game or a beginning game. if we're being honest, I don't know if there's a game. So
it's kind of what I think you kind of explained it there. You know, you say it's 15 minutes piece, and it's kind of chiseled away like a sculpture to become
right.
3 or 4 minutes long. So in a sense, maybe subconsciously, I don't know, but maybe somewhere in the process there is somebody thinking this would actually work as a 4-minute song. Whether that's pop or not, I don't know, because pop's so indefinable.
Yeah, I think we all like the idea of what pop music in the future might sound like. And, you know, ideally it would be a little different to how it is now, but it would be maybe more tonally experimental.
Let's hope so.
I mean, in a way, you've always been working at pop music in the future, Andy, from Science Friction onwards. did we ever get?
It's been a long apprenticeship for me.
So lyrically, it's the same process as well. I mean, does everybody sort of chip in with the lyrics? Is there like themes you're working on, or are they just sort of painting pictures of words?
I mean, for me, I just kind of go ahead, Andy.
No, I was going to say start with Jen, and I'll think, what can I say here?
Oh, okay. Yeah, just, the music itself is so cinematic that it immediately just puts, a little movie into my head and little characters. And I just start to imagine what those characters might be up to. I mean, Race Car was originally in my mind a sort of dance hall, like a sad sort of dance hall situation. And I went with it from there. But the music, later wound up turning it around into something else. But it's hard to say, because there's really the back and forth changes everything. Andy sends something and it's a story.
I agree.
Yeah. And suddenly what you were thinking, you like Grasshopper.
Exactly.
It's a story. But then you could.
Well, with Grasshopper, I'm thinking one way. This idea just fell out around at Stu's place one day. That this sounds to me. This kind of sounds like out in the field. It sounds like I'm in the countryside and I'm led in the grass. Oh, and there's a grasshopper, and what am I doing? I'm singing something to this grasshopper, and telling him to take this song to the one I love. And then when Jen got hold of it, I think she's kind of, she's taken it the other way, and she's avoiding.
I'm like, what the hell is this grasshopper chasing me for?
Exactly. So she's kind of running away.
And what does he want?
Yeah, exactly. Climbing up a tree, getting away from it. So we end up with argumentative narratives, but that's great. That's really good. And a lot of the lyrics are really impressionistic. Like Aviatrix is just we knew that Jen was going to be flying over, so I'm saying, Jen's going to be coming next week or whatever. Let's flying. Okay, what's a female flyer is called what? An aviatrix. And then suddenly it's like, you're improvising lyrics, and they don't make sense. Mm-hmm. What has flying food bricks got to do with Jen coming to England? What made like a bird out of canvas and sticks? God, I hope the plane she's on is a bit more strong than that. It's improvised music, it's improvised lyrics, it's very impressionistic.
It is impressionistic, but it as a listener, you do understand it. I know you don't. You can't understand exactly what a piece of art is, because it could be so many different things, but it does create an impression. And I like, in a way, that Andy, you've always been a very English writer, but there's something, because of Jen, it's got this kind of transatlantic twist in it, which is interesting. It takes you somewhere else from where you've been before.
Absolutely. Well, like I'm saying, that Jen will sometimes come up with a contrary. I might have one idea and put that idea down with Stu, and then think, okay, she's going to get, and then send it over, and then she comes back with a contradictory idea, or a different idea, or no idea, or something that totally replaces my idea. And it's this, you just have to be open to this, because this is where all the surprises lay. Right. Wrong thinking is creativity.
then I think for me, they almost write themselves, that you've got these parts, and just by putting that there, okay, that's a verse, that's a chorus, and playing Look at Those Stars, it needed a middle eight, so I just thought, oh, change the chords in the middle to make it in. So they kind of ended up getting sculpted in these pop-like shapes, but the bits are all sort of quite random. Eventually they kind of write themselves. You keep moving it around, it's like, oh, that now works. So that's what I found. That's my bit, I suppose.
I mean, when Jen comes over and you work together, is that a different creative process than sending it around to each other?
It didn't happen very often. Jen came to do a little tour to promote Warm Robot, and we did a bit of recording there, but I would say it's nearly all been done, across
across the divide,
like base. Yeah.
We had one day, I think, where all of us were all in the studio. I think that's maybe when we went to the. I think we maybe just had one day in here. That was it.
Probably.
I think it was. Yeah.
And we went to the pub and chose a name for the project, but I don't think really much came out that way. It seems to work really well this way. So we just,
leave it. Don't touch it. It's working.
It's working. Yeah.
I mean, is there a way you could actually play together? And obviously you don't play live, Andy, but would you be able to actually be in a room playing together as a project? And will that take the songs into different places, or do you prefer it, like you're just saying, to keep things separate and just moving the files around?
I personally, I like the magic that occurs by Jen sending stuff over. Who knows what's going to arrive? Stu chopping it all around, and let's try that slice there. Oh, let's try, although that bit's in C, let's try it over that piece of music which is in B flat or whatever it is. It's I personally, I like that, and I don't so much like the idea of reproducing. Okay, we've got something, we've got to learn it like that. It's that doesn't, unless you're great improvising players like some sort of modern jazz sensation or whatever. I think we all think of songs in terms of pop songs or folk songs or whatever. And where am I going with this? I'm trying to say that I think the magic is in the improvising and Stu dicing what we'll fling at him,
Yeah,
you talk the anticipation.
It's what,
yeah. The anticipation of waiting, having to wait for parts, not being there and able to work it out in real time. That anticipation starts to alter the way you think, the way you're going to create. So you start to wonder, what am I going to get? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And when you get it, it sparks a whole different thing. And it's a different thing. If you're a songwriter and you're used to sitting there, piece at a time, figuring it out, it's very cool surprise. The element of surprise is really, I think, what really, at least for me, what really makes this thing is the surprise. You don't know what you're going to get. And it's a really cool feeling to have no clue what's coming and then just have to meet it where it is. And I think that's kind of, the fun of the process, is that anticipation.
I mean, and then you can also sit with them a bit as well. We can spend a bit of time sitting with them and trying different things out before you pass it on. I think we're in a room, you're under pressure to come up with a brilliant idea now. This you can just try, we've all got our own little studio setups. We could just try things and, over a few days and then send it on. So I think it allows you to just sit and think, what is the best out of all the ideas you could do, which one, that's the way to go a bit, and then pass it on.
Yeah, I will say that Stu has got the swishiest setup. I've got the garden shed, and all of Jen's things tend to come from. Am I right in saying you record in your kitchen, Jen?
I record it. I've upgraded to a closet, so I do have a piece of the house that is now dedicated, but it's in the house, and it's two cans and a wire.
Yeah, pull talk for full speaker.
Two cans and a wire. Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking. I noticed that Stu was sort of showing off his studio setup by sitting in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you should have a Top Hat and cane and introduce it for us, Stu.
Yeah, it's not that good. I mean, Andy always called it Shabby Road. I was building it when we met, so it's nothing really. A few mics and a few guitars.
I think it's dead posh. If you look through the window to Stu's right, our left, it's there's another bit of it that's dead professional.
Oh, he's got a tool room set up.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a TARDIS. So with musical ideas you put in the pot, because you're all creative people and you all do different projects and you're all up to a lot of stuff. Is there specific things you think that will work with Three Clubmen? Or is it just anything goes in the pot? Do you even throw curveballs in there? They won't be expecting me to.
Totally. I mean, yesterday I don't know, Jen. Do you have Stu brought around all the rejects for me to hear?
Yes, some of those rejects are
they're bloody good. Why didn't we follow them through? I was playing them all yesterday, and I just thought, we have to work on this one and we have to work on that one. Don't know about that section, but that section's great. We got to do something with that bit or that piece. So this is an ongoing thing. It's I don't know whether there's an album there or more EPs, or whether there's going to be more stuff adding to this glorious junk shop that we're building. But it's I was quite astonished at this stuff that we passed over. I was playing it all yesterday evening thinking, shit, that is really good. We got to do something with that.
So there is a curveball.
Yeah. Well, carry on, John.
Yeah, I was just wondering if, like as a challenge, do you sometimes like to challenge the other people in the project by going, this part's impossible. Let's see what they do with this. See what comes back.
Well, I mean, look at Race Car. I think it's in 15. No, it's 15. Not in 4/4. It's in 15. And Jen came up with a song, inverted commas, that fits it perfectly. You shouldn't be able to have a pop song that's in a 15 beat. It's just insane. Yeah. It's fucking out there. It's on Planet Gone, I
was going to say, in the beginning, I think there was some of that, at least between Stu and I. He would send me, say, do you think you can do something with this? Do you want to try something with that? With all kinds of wacky curveballs, as you say. But I think that part passed over pretty quickly when, we would meet each other's challenge very we would rise to the occasion. Then pretty soon it just turned into, wow, we can send each other anything and turn it into something. So, but there is that is a fun. There was that little fun bit, I think, at least in the beginning, where we would just toss stuff at each other and say, yeah, take this, take that,
Yeah.
And Andy, we just saying, there's no real plans what to do with this. There's no plans for an album.
We never planned to do anything specifically. When we started this, it really grew out of nothing, and it was like Stu kept saying to me, Andy, come and listen to this. I've mixed this bit and I've edited in that bit. We've got to do something with this. We've got to put it out. People have got to hear this. I was playing it to a friend and they said, you're insane for not putting this out. And it, the more that people say things like that, I'm thinking, hey, yeah, we got to do something with this.
Right.
I mean, as a fan, I would love to hear an album, as a piece where it'll one end to another, a proper album that has a beginning and an end and a thread or whatever, and I can hear.
So you're fighting a man who loves EPs. I'm really gone on the EP structure. I don't know, Jen. What any thoughts about EPs? I mean, I find them kind of just like the right snack,
I think 7 songs though, so it's a little push it past the 4, but you don't have to do 10. You don't have to do 12. 7. Is that
a 10-inch? Remember 10-inch?
Let that be a bee in the bonnet, the number 7.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
that's kind of interesting. I know that if you do 4 tracks, you can get in the British single charts, and fuck me, we are number 2 still this week in the British physical singles charts.
Or is that the vinyl?
S Club 7 are challenging us.
It just gets weirder and weirder.
It gets weirder, yeah, but they improvise all their shit anyway.
That would be weird. So
yeah, they're like Can. They're just like Can.
So it's just a matter of just stockpiling tunes and the love of working together and putting them out just because your mate tells you to put them out. Is this as loose as this project is, or?
Yeah, but don't you just love that? There's no great plan. We're not sat around saying, hey, you know what? We need a group look. We need to have these. We all got to wear these certain sort of pants, or we've all got to have, we've got to have our hair done in a certain way. Actually, at one point, Jen shaved her head, looked sensational, and all three of us were identical, which was kind of freaky,
Yeah, very scary. Sitting in the pub, three bald people sitting there. It was a little surreal.
Like monks, basically.
But yeah,
exactly.
So
I like this fact that we're recording with no expectations, and a lot of it gets thrown out. So why have expectations if you're going to do the best thing of just take the cream of the cream,
So as a listener, we just wait for little drip feeds, things appearing on the horizon, disappearing. Yeah,
sure. Why not?
Like that?
No.
No. It's a positive thing. I think it's a positive. I think if we all sat down and said, we've got to do this and we've got to do that, that might kill off the sort of fairy fabric of this thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
This is gossamer stuff. This is don't spoil it. Let's do what we do.
Got to trust us.
There probably was enough. There is definitely enough for an album, but it would have been a pretty weak album as it stands at the moment. There'd been a lot of work. So
you don't use the weaker stuff, but just playing through that list you brought me around, that section you brought me around. Whoa, got to do something with that number, or that can be great.
Yeah. I think after the summer we'll really have a proper look and see what the next thing is, really. But there's something. There's going to be something.
Yeah, I think it's just probably as a listener, it's just I just want to get, as a selfish thing as a listener, I just want to get a world to get immersed in. And I found that with the EPs, even one song you could get completely immersed in it because there's so much going on in it. But I was thinking, I've got a whole album of it to get lost in would be fantastic. But I could just stick all the EPs together.
There you go.
I can make my own album. Yeah.
So nothing is intended, everything's accidental, and we pick the best accidental things and we make a beautiful accident for you to enjoy.
I like a beautiful accident. Yeah. Jen?
Me too.
Do you want to sum up as well?
Ditto.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And Stu, last word to you, Stu.
Yeah. It's just the bolting together of really beautiful elements and interesting elements just seems to work. For me, I love doing it. It's great.
Well, thanks a lot for allowing me into your club for 40 minutes. and I look forward to the next installment as well.
He's here all week, folks.
Yeah, it was a shit joke, but it had to be done. Okay, well, thanks a lot then. Thanks for your time. Okay.
All right. Cheers, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, man. Goodbye.
Cheers. Bye.